Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pirates Parley EP11. Today, I'm joined by one of the first Solana devs I ever met on Solana, and he helped me mint my own first token, which we're not going to go into deeply, especially not the ticker, because it might be slightly offensive. Please put your hands together for none other than Noah from Helium. Yay! How
How's
you?
it going? You sure you don't want to tell people the ticker?
Nah,
No,
let's
probably
skip
not.
that one.
Okay.
If you're watching live, and I know a few of you are, feel free to drop your questions or your remarks in the chat. And yeah, we'll just dive into it. If you have a good question, I'll forward it to Noah and we can discuss it. Otherwise, I hope I ask interesting enough questions. So, tell me a little bit about how you came to be a Solana developer initially, because I believe you came from TradFi initially.
Yeah, my brother dragged me into this. I was working at this company called Acuna Capital. They're based out of Chicago. They got high speed market maker on a bunch of like options and futures exchanges. I was not doing the trading engine there. I was doing like data infrastructure, which I think is kind of gave me a little bit of a unique approach to Solana because I came from a big data background. But yeah, I was leading a team over there. I had like just gotten to the point of leading a team, was really excited about it. And my brother at the same time had just started working at Solana, and he was like, "You need to quit." And I was like, "No, like I'm gonna have a big bonus. Like I'm not going anywhere." And I think Solana was at like I don't know, I think it's like $1 at that point.
So
And my
was
brother
he
was like super early.
was he working at the Solana Foundation or Solana Labs or just on in the Solana ecosystem?
He was originally Solana Labs, and that was like in the early days when they like built Metaplex and were like doing all the NFT stuff. It was him and this guy named Bartosh, who I'm sure a lot of people in the ecosystem know. Um, yeah, it's kind of weird because it's like 5, 6 years later now, and I'm talking about like B&J as they're like legends that everybody will know about, but so much has changed since then, and there's sort of like an old guard and a new guard.
Yeah.
It's like it's interesting. Like it used to be, everywhere I go, I was like, in their shadow because they were like this huge thing. They've moved on to like bigger and better things, but like the people who joined the ecosystem in like the last year, like they have no idea of of the old guard.
Yeah, the early days on Solana were pretty wild. Bartosz moved on to do Cube Exchange. Armani
Yeah, Bartosh is
Ferrante
doing Cube.
also doing an
Yeah,
exchange now. It looks like the whole old guard, like the really OG people, they are moving on to like this massive endeavors, like yourself, and like Bartosz. So what was the transition like from TradFi to blockchain technology?
yeah. I resisted coming over for quite a while because I wanted to stay at the company, and I actually like Acuna was a great place to work to their credit. Like I actually really enjoyed it there, but I think it was Sol going from like $1 to $17, where I was like, oh fuck, like you know you start to like actually see the future, and you're like, oh, I probably should move over. But at that point, it was kind of too late to go and join, Solana Labs, or at least so I thought. Right? I was like, oh, I'm probably better off doing a startup. Um, so actually, like, I just wanted to learn Rust, and I knew Solana programming was Rust, and so I just decided that as like a weekend project, I was going to learn Rust and learn to like program on Solana. And I asked Jordan like, what's a cool like toy project to build? And at that point, the thing that was like blowing up was this thing called BitClout, um, which has been repeated over and over and over again. Like I think the last instance of it was it like Frenzy or something like that.
I've never heard
Um,
of it. Can you tell me what it is?
Social tokens. So it's basically like you could launch a token for any profile on Twitter, right? Um, and they had this kind of unique idea where like, well, honestly, pretty much the same as Pump.Fun, where like people launch a token and they can set somebody as the beneficiary of it, and then as like trading fees occur, they sort of build up a treasury that they can go claim. So it was like, you should build this. I was like, it was. I thought BitClout was suboptimal because it was kind of its own website off to the side that people had to go to, and I thought it would be better if it was like embedded into Twitter. So I made a Chrome extension. Mind you, this was all just like a toy app to try to learn Rust. But I built the thing, and then I like showed it to my brother, and he showed it to a bunch of other people, and all of a sudden I had like VCs talking to me, and like was in a bunch of like VC meetings, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll like give you money to go build this." And I was like, "Oh well," like I always wanted to, found my own startup, so I went and did it. But dude, the Solana developer experience back then was just so so bad. Like there were like at least 3 or 4 times that I called Jordan, and I was like, "You need to quit and go work somewhere else because this experience is so bad that nobody is going to build on this thing."
So
Like
what about
it's
it made it so
useless.
bad?
Have you ever balanced the checkbook? Like physically balanced like a real checkbook where you have to like add things in the bottom column and add things on the top column or the right column, like not with Excel.
No, never done it.
Okay. It's maddening. It's horrific. And if you're like me and you have really bad handwriting or bad attention to detail, you'll like mess one number up and then the two numbers don't add together. Um, it's just like a horribly frustrating experience. And that is exactly how I would describe early Solana development, because it was just like, it was so much boilerplate, and so much of it was like dependent on the ordering of accounts that like if you switch the ordering of accounts or miss like a writable flag, the whole thing would be bad. But there was like literally 3 or 4 places between the TypeScript code and the like backend code where you had to repeat that same exact list of accounts. And Solana back then was very like 0 or 1 on errors. Like there was no, it wasn't like, oh, you like messed up account number 5. It was like error, go fuck yourself.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse,
Hey,
but
you can do whatever you want, man.
but like it is basically like it either worked or it didn't work, and it gave you a completely useless error.
So it's like the
So it
IRS.
was just like, yeah,
It's
yeah,
wrong, but we're not going to tell you the number.
yep.
All right.
And it was just really hard to build on. But I think the other thing that was challenging is like Solana has kind of its own data model, and you had to learn the data model and sort of, I wasn't thinking of it as a database at the time. And now, of course, I do think of it as a database, but I kind of, it was sort of akin to the first time you learn like a NoSQL database when you're used to, Postgres or something, right? Like, like when I went and learned Cassandra or Scylla and had to figure out like, okay, what the hell is like a wide column, database? Like, how are they storing things? Right. It was kind of a similar thing with Solana.
So what made you stick around if the developer experience was so horrible? Was it like the VC money? Yeah.
I mean, it was like one. I actually thought the product was like pretty cool, and I thought I thought it had potential. And two, there was sort of so for me it was about 3 weeks of hell, right? So it was like 3 weeks of hell where I was like, this thing is impossible to use. I'm not going to use like this. Like Solana's not going to last. And then I somehow like I made it over that thing, and everything suddenly like started to make sense. And I literally like I rewrote the smart contract that took me 3 weeks to write. I rewrote it in one day after that 3 week period. So it was like once I kind of got through the woods and into the clearing, all of a sudden everything made sense, and I sort of got over the hump of the developer experience being bad. So I also wasn't in such a bad mood. Like this is, this is not going anywhere. And I could kind of see the writing on the wall. Is like at that time, the only real competitor was Ethereum. And I had this unfortunate experience where I was trying to send USDC to my like Solana wallet, and I accidentally sent it to the like Ethereum version of the wallet on my ledger because at the time I didn't really know how these things quite worked. Um, and it cost me like $8 to send $20 back to the exchange, and
Uh-oh.
I was so pissed off. And it took like 10 minutes too. And I was like, this is so stupid. And Solana, I had like gotten used to like, oh, I just send like a couple bucks as like a test transaction, and then send the rest. And so it was at that point I was like, well, if this is the space, and there are thousands of people using Ethereum, like there's no way this other thing is so much better. And you can sort of, when you're looking for asymmetric opportunities, you look for like an order of magnitude better experience, right? Which
Yeah.
Solana is.
Well, that's what
And that's
yeah, that's what drew me to Solana. Like the not I felt so insecure when I would send a an Ethereum transaction. Like, what's happening in the time you press send and it actually arriving in an account, and I was like, no one's gonna use this. My banking system. I'm European. My banking system is faster than this. Like, did I fuck up? And then you're waiting for like 30 minutes for your transaction to be included or processed or whatever it's called. It's crazy. Um,
Yeah, it's just like anxiety inducing.
yeah. Authensis is asking, was there a step function change in the developer experience at any point?
I mean, Anchor was definitely that, um, which is funny because when it first came out, I was so like just like red pilled on doing it, the native way. I was like, there's no way this thing can possibly be secure. Like, you shouldn't use it. This, that, the other thing. And then I was actually talking to Armani about it, and he was like, you can just run cargo expand. And so I like wrote a program in Anchor. I ran cargo expand, and I looked at the code it generated, and it was literally like it was the checkbook balancing code that I had written 1,000 times. It was just writing the same thing that I was being forced to write. I was like, oh my god. So then I rewrote the contracts again in Anchor, um, and Anchor is definitely probably like the biggest time saver.
Yeah. But it's also a bit bulky from what I heard from Leonardo from Blue Shift when compared to the
Yeah.
newer Pinocchio like standard.
Well, there's a new thing that it's coming out of, I think, Blue Shift, called
Yeah.
Quasar. That is basically the exact same syntax as Anchor, but it's even faster than Pinocchio. Um, so
All
I'm
right.
probably gonna start using that. I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about like a framework, right? Is Anchor has in my opinion, a very nice way of laying out the data so that you can kind of read and audit it. It's just a very nice interface, and then somebody can go and swap out that same interface with something extremely fast, and I don't have to do shit,
Yeah.
which is nice.
It's time to get Dean M. Little on the stream then. um,
Yeah, I mean the CU golfing that they've been doing is like truly very impressive stuff.
Solana has been
I
accelerating.
actually don't.
It's crazy.
I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, I don't spend much time in like CU optimization land because most of the products that I've worked on aren't super performance sensitive, and I'm very much of the opinion like ship fast. You can worry about like making it more efficient once you actually have users, uh, which is very much the Solana ethos. Like the fact that we were sitting on like a token program that could be sped up by fucking like 50x is insane, right? It's 6 years later and we have a 50x too slow token program, but that is why Solana has absolutely demolished everything else in the game, because where all the other scientists were sitting there and debating for 3 years at Cardano about adding one feature, Solana was like, let's just ship it. And they did. And now you're kind of seeing it get faster and faster and faster as they just take one down, pass it around, like optimize it.
Yeah. It was that tweet like 5 or 6 days ago where the guy was like, what are you guys doing if you ship a product that can be optimized by 50x, and then you look at who wrote that tweet and it's actually someone from a protocol that's barely used. Yeah, it's fun. I love that about Solana. So let's dive back into the timeline a little, because you started Strata Protocol. There was a weird bunch of people hanging around in the space back then. I won't name names, but yeah, they were there. Not anymore that much. At some point, and I think that was announced just before Solana Breakpoint 22, you were hired by Helium. How did that
Yeah,
go?
so well, went through a lot of pivots, right? So, first I was trying to do the social token thing. Found out pretty quickly that social tokens, at least in their current form, really weren't it. People didn't want to like launch a token associated with their reputation and then be responsible for maintaining it forever. Right? Kind of like you see with NFTs, right? Like even on the timeline now, there's drama. Mad Lads are pissed off because they didn't get a big enough airdrop from a thing that they bought not 6 years ago, but probably like 3 or 4 years ago. Right? Nobody wants to be like indentured forever. And so I started to realize like, oh, you should probably, instead of launching a token around a person, launch it around like an idea or a product. So I pivoted to just like a token launch pad, which turns out was like pretty close to what Pump.Fun was, but not nearly as degenerate. And I don't think I was ever going to be degenerate enough to to lead something like Pump.Fun. So I don't really think that I like missed the boat. I was definitely like too early, but I don't know that I was the right person um, to do that. Anyway, at the time, I was kind of messing around with token gated chats, and that was sort of going to be the next iteration of Strata. But this was like right after the FT. Well, actually, this was right before the FTX collapse.
Yeah.
But I think Three Arrows had already like went down, and it was kind of the market was bearish. I was sort of starting to have my doubts about crypto in general, because all I had seen from that bull run was just rampant speculation on NFTs that did. Uh, they were a lot of fun, but they didn't really do anything useful. I didn't see anything get useful, or anything useful get built. And then I got approached by Helium, and they were like, "Yeah, we built this blockchain back before Solana existed, and there was only Ethereum, and it made sense then, but now we need to move it to Solana." And I was like, "Well, one, Helium was like very interesting to me because I'm like, here they are deploying actual hardware that's actually useful that people are actually like they're using, right? Like here's a physical product in crypto land. So that for me was like one big thing. I was like, oh,
So
I can actually work on something useful.
yeah.
And two, technical challenge. It's like this is insane. Who shoves a blockchain into another blockchain?
So for those who
So
don't know or are listening and are pretty new to what Helium is, can you walk us through? You were not part of the initial startup of Helium, but you probably know about how it went, what the idea is. Can you explain to everyone listening what Helium is, what it does, and why it's so amazing?
yeah, so Helium in its like most modern form, I think, is easier to explain. We have a mobile network. You can sign up with us just like you can with T-Mobile, and we are able to give you a much cheaper price for your phone plan because in a variety of places like coffee shops, stadiums, etc., we have physical Wi-Fi hotspots that your phone will just connect to automatically. And it turns out there's kind of a real density problem when it comes to trying to use a tower to serve data to people, right? Like if you have 300 people sitting inside a restaurant, the towers are outside, they kind of start to get sluggish. Wi-Fi is actually much better for that situation. And the majority of data usage is actually in these like highly congregated areas with slow moving foot traffic. So then the question becomes like, how do we deploy quickly a network in all of these like kind of hard to reach places in a way that's like low capex And the typical sort of model of this is like Verizon will go and they'll send somebody and they'll have to like try and rent somebody's like rooftop and go through all this legal hassle. Helium is just you buy a hotspot, you plug the thing in, and you earn tokens for it, right? And so it's so easy for us to get into these coffee shops because either the coffee shop owner like hears about us or their cousin hears about Helium and then just tells them like, yo, plug this thing in. Honestly, a lot of the times people don't the business owners aren't even so interested in earning the tokens as they are the fact that the coverage inside their building is crap. And a lot of their business comes from like, oh, someone's like trying to write a review and post a picture and they can't do it because there's no signal. So our hotspots can offload to two of the three, major networks. And so even if you're not on Helium Mobile, if you're on one of these other two networks of the three, it will also offload for you. So there are like probably, I think it sits around like 3 million users a day, unique users a day, that are offloading to this network. Now, originally, Helium was not doing mobile. We were doing this thing called IoT, which is like a really long range, low powered signal that's for like sensors. Think like, parking sensors, farming, and things like that. Because the founder was kind of an IoT guy back in the day. And you have to remember, like in 2017, IoT was the future. Like everybody thought everything was going to be on, this signal called LoRaWAN. Everything was going to be IoT. It was kind of like AI back in the day. So the original network that Helium built was this IoT network, and good God, did they build it? Like this thing just exploded. It was, I think, the first DPIN, so decentralized physical infrastructure network, the first thing where you could like deploy a hotspot and earn tokens for it. And they deployed like 500,000 hotspots in the period of like a few, I don't know, maybe a year. I don't know. I don't know the exact numbers, but it was insane.
How do you reach so many people and get them to install this piece of hardware connected to a blockchain? I bet 50% of those people never heard of a blockchain before. How did the distribution go, and where did people find Helium?
It, I think it exploded on YouTube actually, because people made videos and they were like, I just like plugged this thing into my wall and all of a sudden it's like, paying for itself kind of thing. Um, Helium was really interesting in that it was not, and still isn't, your typical crypto crowd. Like it is very much like crypto. You have like degens, traders, like people that care deeply about financial instruments and perps. And Helium was not that. In fact, I think the age range actually skewed to the older side. So we have like a lot of people that it's their first time touching crypto, and so we try to make sure the onboarding experience is really really smooth. And it was and still is pretty smooth, and so it was like very easy to onboard it. You didn't have to like go connect to an exchange and like KYC and try and buy crypto because you were like actually earning it, which is also kind of an interesting way to come in. But you get just a lot of like very scrappy kind of DIY people that realize there's an opportunity to kind of be their own boss and go deploy these things. And man, like, even today with the mobile network, like there are people that are just like going across the country like Johnny Appleseed, dropping hotspots all along the way. And like, it's kind of a cool thing because once you have the hotspot there, you got to do some work to maintain it, pay for the internet and stuff. But like most of the work is up front and then it's just earning.
That's
Um,
crazy.
so yeah, it's a very different user base and very different people, but it's a super cool community because they're all like very self-motivated, driven people.
All right.
Well, some of them are very self-motivated, driven gamers, which is sometimes problematic.
How so?
So like anytime you're creating a system where you reward people for doing stuff, how you do stuff is you have to be careful about how you measure it because people are going to try and game the crap out of it,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, you're gonna like reward me for number of phones that connect to this. So I'm gonna like make a kind of like Pokemon Go. You had people with like 30 phones strapped to a bicycle, right? Like, yeah. I think what's actually been fascinating to me is in your head, you think there's going to be like basically two cohorts of people. You have the people that are like doing it the honest way, and the people that are just going to like try to game no matter what.
Yeah,
The reality
max
is
extract.
it's a lot more gray than that. You have people that are deploying tons of useful stuff and also trying to game. And like I think it's a naive view to assume the world is going to be black and white. It's actually gray, and it's the job of you as a protocol designer to harness the degenerates that are trying to game into just doing the useful thing. Like when gaming becomes just doing the useful thing, now you've created something useful, and we're very much there now, because now we have offload through two of the three like major carriers in the US. It's just impossible to game that you have a hotspot that connects to 700 phones, right? So like the easiest way to game is to just go like put a hotspot in a mall. And if you put a hotspot in a mall, you're actually going to make a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
So yeah,
So,
so they don't, they're not putting 70 hotspots in a closet anymore.
all right. So now we know what Helium is. And so Helium was a blockchain. It was able to run on Raspberry Pis, just like Ethereum. And then they asked you to come along and integrate Helium blockchain into Solana. So what was that like? I believe it was Helium Improvement Protocol 70, or Helium Improvement Proposal 70. That was like, all right,
I
let's.
think it was 58, maybe. Oh man, I used to have this stuff memorized, but
Well,
um,
apart from the number,
yeah, I mean,
you heard this
Helium went
idea.
through some, yeah, they went through some crazy iterations. So, like you said, the first blockchain was actually running on the hotspots itself, a bunch of Raspberry Pis. And it turns out, I think it was around like 16,000 of these things, um, which is impressive as hell, by the way. It started to slow down and not work anymore. But like 16,000, I mean, Solana starts getting slow, once we add like, 4,000 nodes or whatever, right? So like 16,000 is pretty impressive. So then they like migrated to a validator system where they would have like validators that were running the blockchain, and then the hotspots were just kind of off to the side. Um, but even that was like having trouble scaling once they got to, you know, I don't even remember. It was like 400, 500,000 hotspots, and they were doing all of the arithmetic on chain for how you get those rewards. And at that point, they realized they needed to sort of do an Oracle system because this data was way too big to do for you know, you just can't crunch numbers that large on a blockchain. Um, and so as they're looking at this and they need to transition to an Oracle system, it's like, okay, well, what does our blockchain do at that point? And it's like, okay, it onboards hotspots, it manages the hotspots, it lets you transfer tokens. Why the hell do we need our own blockchain for this? And so they brought me on to basically, shove one blockchain into another blockchain. Um, and it was probably the greatest technical challenge of my career, because it was just, there's so much state that needs to come over. And honestly, one of the hardest things was governance. They had passed all of these governance things that were sort of aspirational that they hadn't implemented yet. Around, we wanted to have, V tokens, so like you have like locked tokens with voting power, and this whole system where there were multiple subnetwork tokens, but like the rewards going to each subnetwork dependent on like how voters delegated to them. Like there was a bunch of crazy experiments that wanted to be built, and we had to basically build that entire thing and ship it in 6 months. And one of the hardest parts is, again, I talk about like the old guard and the new guard. Like the new guard doesn't understand how hard it used to be to land transactions on Solana. It was not smooth. You did not just have things land in a few seconds. And occasionally the chain went down. And if there was like too much stuff going on, it was like a kiddie pool. And if somebody shat in the corner of the kiddie pool, everyone got poop on themselves. Um, and like, and so this was like a very real consideration. I was like, I cannot, like, if I migrate this over, I can't turn on my shit cannon and crash the chain. It's going to be embarrassing for us. It's going to be embarrassing for the chain. Um, it turned out at that point, like by the time we did the migration, the chain was actually in a much better state. But still, we launched like basically at the same time that Mad Lads launched, just by coincidence, and it was terrifying. And Mad Lads actually took down all of the RPCs, and people thought the chain was down, but it was just the RPCs. And so the whole thing was architected around being basically as lazy as possible. I wanted to have to run as few transactions on migration day as possible. The other stipulation was we could only have 24 hours of downtime. So we had enough state that it was probably 2 or 3 million transactions worth of state that needed to be pushed over.
Jesus.
And I was just not confident that I could run 3 million transactions in 24 hours.
Which is
so,
like, it should be a breeze now. And especially then, given that there was almost no on-chain activity compared to what it is now or a few months ago, it's crazy.
Yeah, like you could totally do it now. I mean, Solana's running what, like 1,000 transactions per second. I don't know how many, a million divided by thousands is, but it's probably on the order of like minutes. Anyway, we architected it so that we actually just rolled all of the state up into a Merkle tree. And then on migration day, all I had to do was write a Merkle route to the chain. And then as people signed on to Helium, they would, basically validate their state against the Merkle tree, and then it would inflate on chain. But we still, to this day, not everyone's migrated. Like every now and then, like once a day, you'll have somebody log in that hasn't logged in for 3 years, and their state will like migrate on Solana. But because we did it lazily like that, it wasn't running, millions of transactions in the first day. It was running thousands.
So you guys using a Merkle tree to migrate all that state, was that like the starting point of CNFTs on chain as well? Because that's also like Merkle trees. Was that like that initial design something that became something else later on, or are those two unrelated?
They're, kind of related, right? Like I learned how to work with Merkle trees on chain from Bubblegum and the CNFTs, because we were actually still are using CNFTs to represent hotspots because it was just cheaper. And this was like before Metaplex Core existed. So in order to make an NFT, you had to make like a mint, a metadata, and I think a master edition. So you had to make like a lot of accounts on chain, and Sol was still decently expensive. So it was pretty costly to do that. And we were doing this for 1 million hotspots at once, right? So, if it costs $1 per NFT and you're minting 1 million hotspots, now you have to pay $1 million, and that's out of pocket, right? So we were using CNFTs, and that's where I kind of learned about Merkle trees. But it wasn't using the Bubblegum program at all. The Merkle tree, the leaves in the Merkle tree were actually Solana transactions, basically.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. Actually, I regret the CNFTs deeply. If you want a spicy pick.
How so?
They're terrible to work with. It kind of, remember when I was talking about the early Solana days of like you get an error and it's like 0 or 1, you just messed up.
Mm-hmm.
That is everything working with CNFTs. If you like mess up the proof even slightly, you mess up the thing that you're passing into the your program even slightly, it says you messed up, but it won't tell you how. Which would be fine if there was like a robust testing framework for this, but there is no CNFT indexer on LocalNet or Surfpool or anything like that. Like you have to build the tree locally in TypeScript and try and generate the proofs from that locally built tree. And if that differs from what's on chain, you get a very unhelpful error. They're horrendous to work with. The developer experience, like if you consider what your time is worth as a developer, and multiply how many hours you lose debugging these things by how much you're saving per NFT, I would be surprised if anyone's actually saving money on them.
Well, maybe Drip House.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Because they're spitting out a shit ton of them. But also, like, Drip is cool, but they weren't. The NFTs aren't like they weren't doing anything.
No.
Right? Like they're not attached to any data on chain. They're just a JPEG.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
somebody's wallet.
yeah.
And for that, CNFTs are like pretty good. And maybe that made us like a unique user of CNFTs. But we have like actual PDAs that are sitting on top of these CNFTs, and like they do things on chain. And when you have to actually write your own smart contracts that interact with these things, they're truly horrendous. And now Metaplex has this thing called Core, which is a NFT standard that exists on just one account. And it is almost as cheap as using CNFTs, but 10 times easier to work with. Not only that, but like rent is about to get reduced by like 10x.
It depends on how big your tree is, basically. If you have these huge trees with like hundreds and millions of CNFTs, then it's a lot cheaper to use CNFTs. If it's, under 100,000 or something like that, then it's cheaper to use Core, probably.
Well, yes and no. The problem with these CNFTs too is they can be really cheap if you put no canopy on it, but that means that your proofs get really, really long. And that's a thing that like I think Drip did initially. So you had to pass like 17 accounts as a proof, which meant you couldn't trade these things. They were unusable on chain because, there's a 1232 byte limit. At Helium, we were like, these things, you actually use them. Like people represent their hotspots with them. They need to change configurations on their hotspot. So the most we were willing to have pass as a proof was 3 accounts, which meant that we needed a really chunky canopy, and that canopy costs SOL, right? And that drives the price to the point where, once we get rent reductions, it's probably going to be pretty similar to using Core.
All right.
There's cool technology in compression that has since come about. Like I think Helios and Light Protocol worked on this like zero knowledge compression, where no matter how large your tree is, the proof size is fixed. And they're also able to do sort of uniqueness constraints with it, which is really interesting. Because one of the problems that we had was there was no concept of a program derived address with a CNFT, right? So I couldn't guarantee uniqueness. Like let's say each hotspot has a serial number. I can't guarantee that only one of each serial number exists on chain without actually writing a struct to the chain.
Oh.
ZK compression actually can do that. So that's really cool technology. If I had like unlimited time, I would probably mess around with it. But with rent reductions coming, it's just maybe not worth the added time. They also like put a bunch of stuff into Anchor so that it was easier to work with. Like those guys pulled off an incredible engineering feat, and I don't think they get enough credit for it. And sadly, with rent reductions, I don't know how many people are going to actually use these things. But if you have a giant business that's trying to onboard billions of people, it does probably suddenly start to become reasonable again.
Nice. So take me back to that day where you had to integrate a full blockchain into another blockchain. You wake up in the morning. What's the did you sleep at all? What was the day like?
I mean, I'm really, really anal and paranoid. So I wanted to be able to sleep. So I wanted this thing to basically be one button click and it would just work. And I did tons of testing. I did tons of testing on DevNet. which is fun because I was like begging Solana Foundation is like, does somebody have 10,000 DevNet sold for me because I need to run this migration on DevNet and like and test it out, which I actually got some. But no, the day of, so I had this entire thing built um, into a Docker container that would get deployed via Kubernetes when we merged a pull request um, into our Kubernetes repo. Um, so I actually like I didn't even click the button to merge it. The CEO at the time of Helium Foundation clicked the button to merge it, and then it just kicked off and started doing things. I had to kick it a few times because it had a few issues, but for the most part, it went off fine. Actually, the biggest issues were just not. I mean, there was a long tail of probably 6 months where we were just like fixing bugs constantly and like dealing with issues. But there was no like loss of funds, which was the thing I was the most scared of.
Yeah.
The only loss of funds really that occurred was like a misinterpretation of one of the hips, kind of like an off by one type of error, where uh, myself and somebody on another team had sort of miscommunicated what this would be. And I think it ended up being on the order of like $60,000 worth of the IoT token that it was off by, which, migrating something that had like a $500 million market cap
Could have been
over
worse.
a
Could
different
have been
chain
worse.
could
Just
have been
saying.
worse. I was like, yeah. I mean, look, at the time I was like shitting my pants and I was really upset about that. But looking back now, I'm like, damn, the fact that that's the only thing that like went wrong is pretty impressive.
So, what was the impact of Helium moving onto Solana for the Solana blockchain? What did it bring to the party? Because
It's funny because
it
now it, it's not as big of a deal now because Solana has so many users and so much shit going on. But for a solid like 6 months, we were like one of the biggest parts of Jupiter's traffic. Like I think people coming from Helium Wallet were like 15 or 20% of Jupiter's trading traffic.
wow.
So it brought a shit ton of users to Solana. Those people were going and experimenting with other things. It was actually like I had to build a ton of safety features into our wallet app because, like I said earlier, the Helium community was not like degen traders like the Solana community. And so, it was kind of like when the Europeans came to America and like, gave everyone disease. Like they didn't understand that there were ruggers everywhere trying to scam them. And so like it was great because you had like Helium community members like getting involved in NFTs and launching NFT projects and stuff, but at the same time you had people getting just rugged left and right and stealing their seed phrases. Like
So you guys actually built a Solana wallet in
yeah,
your
we did.
stack. Does that still
Oh,
exist?
that was like it does. I'm trying to kill it. It is like the biggest Frankenstein ever. So like when it first started, that app needed to support both the old Helium L1 blockchain and Solana at the same time. So it was supporting both of those and it was looking at like a flag that we had, whether or not the migration had gone through yet. So you can imagine that code base was disgusting because every feature basically had like two implementations. And it took forever to even get that to be like less disgusting.
Was it like
But
a self
yeah,
custody
we do.
wallet or was it like non custodial or what was it like?
It's a self custody wallet. Like it's like Phantom or Soulflare. It's on mobile. It's decent. It's just the UX is not the best, but it does all of the Helium stuff that you need, right? You need to like be able to claim rewards and change your stuff on your hotspots. We actually ended up with kind of a huge sprawl of apps where like, when you were onboarding a mobile hotspot, you use this thing called the Builder app. And then when you were onboarding an IoT hotspot, well, it depended who manufactured that hotspot. They had their own app to onboard things. And then you also had Helium Wallet. So you have this like huge sprawl of apps that we're actually trying to get rid of now and put everything into. There's this website, world.helium.com, that has basically everything you need, and you can log in with Privy, and it's a really nice experience. And we're trying to just make a one-stop shop so that people stop getting confused on like which app do I use for what.
Yeah.
Because like the Helium Wallet app is nice, but like I not to untoot my own horn, but like Phantom and Soulflare are way nicer. Like me personally, I built the Helium Wallet app. I don't use Helium Wallet app to manage most of my crypto funds. I use Soulflare, right? Like, and so it's just one of those things that like I think that people who care about self custody should be probably self custodying in Soulflare and then just going to a website to do the Helium specific things. And that's how every other DPIN on Solana works. Every other app on Solana works. Like nobody's doing things natively in the wallet, right? Like they all have their own little websites and apps where you go like do the specific actions.
Yeah, or you could visit those
And
websites from the wallet as well.
I think to a large degree, like the multiple giant apps on Solana have, I think, tried to, create their own wallets and take that market share. And to a large degree, I think every single one of those has failed. Everyone's still using Phantom and Soulflare. So like
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't use Jupiter Wallet. Maybe some people use Jupiter Wallet.
Did you use
I know
Solid?
Magic Eden had a wallet. Oh God, Solid. I like Solid.
The one with 3 L's.
Dude, Solid. I learned a lot from Solid because it was open source, and
Yeah,
so I got to
exactly.
like see
So
how
did
the
you
stuff
use
worked.
Solid as a like a framework for Helium Wallet, or did you build it from scratch?
We built it from scratch, but like I had obviously learnings from Solid. I mean, so Solid really helped me in the early days because coming completely fresh into Solana, there were things that I didn't expect in the data model. For example, like a wallet, right? We all know what a wallet is. I had just assumed that a wallet was like a bag that I could put stuff in. And so that wallet address would have some piece of data on chain that had all of my tokens in it. And I was very confused by the fact that it didn't have all of my tokens in it. And like, of course, us devs that have been here for a while know like, oh, you have an associated token account, which actually associated token account didn't even exist in the beginning. But Solid's code base was like kind of nice for me to go through and see like, oh, this is how a wallet is actually structured.
I was so confused when I went from I believe it was from Solid to Soulflare or Phantom, either one, and apparently they had different derivation paths. So I was so yeah, I imported my seed phrase, but I ended on a very different different public key, and I was like, I was panicking for real. It was super duper weird times. We have come so far. Like it's been like 6 years, but it's been dog years, right? It feels like 40 years ago, and I'm not even 40 years old. Talking about all
Yeah,
these weird
it moves
clunky
fast, man.
protocols.
I mean, dude, Helium. So Helium has ED25519 keys, just like Solana, but we were on a different derivation path, and that was like a fun thing for the migration. Helium wallet app still, until like a year ago, was using the old Helium derivation path, which was like super fun because people would put their seed phrase into Phantom and be like, "Where's my shit?"
Exactly. Yeah.
The other thing that confuses even like crypto like experts is you have like derivation paths like 0, 1, 2 on the same like seed phrase. I So my brother Jordan, who is, a an expert on crypto, but this was a while ago. He actually wrote his best man speech at my wedding as an NFT, right? Like he put it on the blockchain, and he wrote on the back of it. He wrote the seed phrase for me to like get access to this NFT. And he had just gone into Phantom, gone to the wallet with the NFT on it, and then exported seed phrase. And then I imported this thing, and I was like, Jordan, I have all of your wallets,
Oh
every one of them.
no.
And he was like, "Oh, fuck, it's the derivation paths," like, because
Shit.
it's just such an easy mistake to make, right?
Yeah, well,
Like,
no. No, this is if you're a blockchain expert, this is not all right. I'm gonna
oh,
I'm gonna ask him to
keep
write.
in mind this was like 5 years ago. Oh fuck, this was 6 years ago. Yeah, this was 6 years ago. So he was really not an expert at that point. He had just started at Solana, and had just built the NFT protocol. He also came from TradFi. So he would never make that same mistake now, and probably wouldn't have even made it, 2 years into the ecosystem. But
This still is gonna
6
get
months into
clipped.
the ecosystem,
It's gonna get clipped, and we're
yeah,
gonna
because he
send it
just
to him.
yeah, Jordan, you fucking idiot.
Nah, I want him on someday. It will be fun. So,
You should
you're.
get him on his stories of the early days of the ecosystem and the hacker houses.
I want you
Man,
guys.
Solana would not be what it is without Jordan and Bartosh
I think
and Ellie and all of them doing the hacker houses. Those were huge.
I want you guys both on at the same time. That'll be fun.
No, because then we're just gonna talk shit.
Uh, that's what Pirates Parley is for. So I wanted to steer the conversation a little bit towards your spicy takes and your small pokes in the ecosystem. Like you are a vocal critic of the current state of Solana. It has slightly improved, but there are still things that are not improved. So let's see if I can probably share my screen. Let's look at one of your tweets here.
Oh no,
Yeah. So a year ago,
not the Twitter.
you wrote this tweet. Um, so yeah, uploaded IDL on chain management is a mess. Well, there is no on chain IDL management basically. Um, there's no IDL history. The read layer sucks. Thanks. Welcome to Trident One. Um, like you're a vocal critic, so that really helps Solana move forward. But yeah, you are. So rent is too damn high. CNFTs cause issues. So there's so
Yeah, I
much.
mean, I think a lot of my complaints come from like because I come from a, a data background. I have a good picture of what things should look like. And I think a lot of Solana engineering comes from they come from these like embedded systems design background, right? And they're like, let's make things as fast as possible and fuck the people that are indexing data. Like we just want it to be as fast as possible. But this thing is a fire hose of data. It's just shooting out so much crap constantly. And then all the RPCs are expected to just mop all of that crap up and make it indexable. And there's just so many basic things that if somebody had actually thought about this stuff from a data perspective in the first place, we would never have had problems where we until 2 years ago, there was not a single indexer that I could rely on to give me at least once message delivery. It was basically yeah, occasionally you're going to miss messages. If you want to not miss messages, you just need to run 3 different geysers in 3 different regions that each cost $1,000 each. Like the fuck? So that was a problem. You can see the IDL stuff, we're talking about data. Your stuff needs a clean schema. You need support for schema evolution. No schema. We just shoot out bytes. If you want to query your data, just do a fucking byte comparison on it. What are we, cavemen? Like the whole thing is so bad. And then when you're trying to go through and historically decode the crap, you're on that U.S. Navy aircraft carrier where the shit was flowing everywhere, and you're just ankle deep in crap, because the IDLs change over time, but no
Yeah.
one's keeping track of the IDL versions. And then suddenly someone has the bright idea that, oh, this IDL is actually trash and we need to completely change the format. So let's just completely change the format, but upload it to the same fucking place so that any client that's looking at and expecting the old IDL will just now get the new IDL and then violently explode because that's okay. Like, yeah, data is just a huge mess. Still is a huge mess on Solana. We use this thing called streaming fast, which is kind of behaves like Kafka. And so we at least can guarantee that we get every message now. No one's really solved the historical IDL problem, and it actually really pissed me off because I was around when they were talking about creating this new like IDL metadata service that they've now decided to like completely jump on board with and force everything on Anchor to go through this IDL metadata service. And in the beginning, I was very vocal. You guys need to add versioning support so that this doesn't happen again. And then, of course, they just didn't do it.
So what, in your opinion, does the Anza Labs need do or Solana Foundation need do in order to fix all these problems? Like, do they need to hire someone, get a dedicated make Noah happy about Solana again department, or do they...
I mean, this is the thing, like, to a large degree, they have actually done this. Like, Jacob from Solana Foundation has been incredible.
Jacob
He has
Creech?
gotten so much shit done. Yeah, Jacob Creech. He has
he's
mobilized so many people, gotten so much shit done that, like, if you look at my quote tweet to this, a lot of the problems in this tweet just aren't there anymore, right? Like, if you there are maybe like 3 or 4 problems from this that are still there, and I listed 16 things. So he has just been an absolute beast. I'd say like I have spicy takes, and I'm like pissed off about some of these things because I'm like, they could have been solved by now. But the reality is, Solana is like so much easier to build on now that it's not even like most of the time that I spend coding is not dealing with Solana stuff. It's dealing with like normal web dev stuff. I used to spend maybe 10% of my time writing smart contracts. Now it's even less than that. It's so fast to write these things. With AI now, it's so fast to like create interfaces for them. We have gone now the more expensive route, which is sort of running everything through indexers and having all of our instructions and stuff built on a server, and that has been easier to do because of AI, and also sort of dances around a lot of these problems, right? Like I don't have to worry about historically indexing IDLs because my indexer is always running and has been running and updates as the IDL updates, and so my stuff is indexed. I don't have to worry about breaking IDL changes, messing with any of my clients' ability to form transactions because my clients aren't forming transactions themselves. They're talking to the API now. So like, I don't know, it's gotten easier. Like transaction landing used to be a huge problem. I had all this crazy logic to get transactions through, re-sign them if the block hash expired. None of that logic ever gets hit anymore. The transactions just land. I had issues with like, I want to do some stateful operation that takes multiple transactions. Well, now like Jito bundles just work and 80% of the network is running them. Like, I actually just don't have that much to complain about anymore. I will complain about the things that I do complain about, but damn if it's not gotten way better.
Well, it's good to have like constructive criticism. It's not like it's unfounded or bullshit, and apparently people are listening because things are getting fixed. I was at the Super Team Netherlands launch party, and I met one of the devs that came from the EVM space, and I said, well, what was moving to Solana like? And he's like, oh yeah, the developer experience is so good. And I remember you, well, for me it was like 5 o'clock in the morning just ranting about Solana and chewing glass in the in the Strata protocol Discord channel, like in the middle of the night. And it's we've come a long way. Quick question: how are you in regards to time? Because we already talked shit for an hour, so I'm not sure what the rest of your morning looks like.
I actually just got a surprise meeting put on my calendar. So
All right.
uh, if you want to go longer, we can. I don't have
Well,
to
if you have
go
to
to it,
go,
but we can
then
probably
you
run.
have to go. Yeah, whatever you want.
I mean, we could go for a bit longer if you have like a point you wanted to wrap up on.
Yes.
Um,
So the target audience for this podcast is, or live stream, whatever you want to call it, is getting builders on Solana, and catering to them. What's the biggest piece of advice you can give a starting dev that's, for instance, going to start building for the upcoming hackathon, or wants to build a little side project? What's the biggest piece of advice or wisdom you can share with them when it comes to developing on Solana or in live general?
this is probably going to be the opposite of what some people will tell you, but my opinion is ship it as fast as possible because your product is going to change so much. Like no product survives contact with users. Um, so I see so many people shoot themselves in the foot because they're like, I need to make this super fast. I'm going to optimize it with Pinocchio and do this and that. And they spend like months trying to ship the fastest, most optimized product. And then no one cares. And they release it to dust and echoes. And it's like, what are you doing? Write the thing in Anchor. I don't care if it's slow. Like we have, Helium, this whole like indexing infrastructure and APIs running these things. Fuck it. You don't need that. V1, directly hit the RPC. You don't have enough users that get program addresses and is going to be a problem, and get account info and get multiple accounts should be fine. Right. Like do all the wrong things to get the thing shipped fast. If you don't have, something that you're testing with users in 2 to 3 weeks of development time, you are doing it wrong. That would be my advice. All these things you can fix later.
Just go fast.
Go fast. Go real fucking fast.
Ship now. All right. Ship now, think later.
I mean, be careful, right? Like obviously, on the smart contract side, make sure you get audits done, make sure you're like really carefully, checking out your endpoints to make sure that they're safe. But you should be using Anchor. You should be, vibe coding the crap out of getting your front end out. Like do things fast.
All right. Awesome. Last question for all the digital nomads out there. When will we see a international global phone number powered by Helium phone plan that, you make payments that get deducted while you're making the phone call on chain? When's that happening?
I think it's going to happen piecewise, right? Like we announced that Breakpoint that we're going to have Brazil on soon. It was announced a while ago that Mexico is in the works with Telefonica. So I think you're just going to see like country by country get onboarded. It's not something that we can just unveil all at once because it requires, Helium is like we fall back to existing network providers, which means we need to work heavily with existing network providers before we can offer it in a region.
All right.
Yeah, I know it sucks to hear. I wish we could just like turn it on everywhere.
It doesn't suck to hear, but yeah,
it doesn't work that way.
When Netherlands.
I mean, I think there is something on our website where like people can like kind of flag which countries they're the most interested in, which sort of helps us guide these things. But also, a lot of these deals with countries, happen because somebody in that country knows about Helium and is friends with the CEO of a telecom company and is like, hey, like I'll introduce you guys. Let's get this shit going.
All
right. Like, it's hard to get into those conversations. So like if you're someone who really wants it in your country and like the CEO of a telecom or something, like dude, just make the intro.
All right, I'm gonna make friends with the Odido CEO. They recently had a hack, so probably easy to
oh boy
to get his number. All right, with that thought, thanks so much for being on. And yeah, it was pretty spontaneous, but I'm really glad we got to do this. I'm gonna let you go so you can go into your impromptu meeting, and I hope to have you on soon with Jordan, so we can talk shit about that time he shared his seed phrase with you.
Yeah, it's true. I probably wasn't supposed to tell anyone that happened, but now it's
Now
live.
it's there. Yeah, this is live. We can't cut it out.
Now he's gonna get made fun of.
For everyone that watched, we have 50 people watching right now. It's crazy, crazy numbers, by the way. Thanks so much for watching. Next week, I'm going to be back. I'm going to have Austin Fedara on from Double Zero, formerly from Solana Foundation. He was the fall guy for Solana Foundation. Is there a question you would like me to ask Austin?
I don't know. I didn't prepare for this one.
All right.
Ask him why it's all his fault.
If I will write that down. Actually, it's pretty funny. All right.
Ask him why he put this horrible curse on Vibu. Vib didn't deserve this.
Nah, he's a good guy. They're both good guys. All right, I'm gonna ask him, and I hope to talk to you soon. Good luck with your meeting, dude.
Always good talking to you.
All right.
Yeah, it's definitely